Good morning, everyone. It's an honor to be here today to celebrate the life and also the legacy of Professor Ted De Winter. Unfortunately, I don't have the chance to get to know him personally, but I think from what we heard already today, his impact can be felt through the hands-on approach to engineering education, as well as the strong culture of mentorship he helped build and inspired at Boston University. Especially Paul's remarks, I think, showed us again how his impact as a mentor went well beyond the classroom. So that resonates well with me as well. And today, even though I'm going to talk about our research projects, I think what I really want to highlight and emphasize is how our students are making real-world impact on our society through these interdisciplinary projects. So I don't have very fancy and nice slides as Doug, but I think what I want to show as my most important slide is my wonderful students. So today, I'm going to talk about some of the hardware technologies they built. So in my group, broadly speaking, we design energy-efficient semiconductor chips with broad applications in human health, environment, biomanufacturing, and wireless communications. And all of these are very interdisciplinary projects, so we work with domain experts, so we cross boundaries by learning how they speak. So, and today you're gonna see some of the technologies that we build, including an ingestible capsule we have over here. So I wanna acknowledge, of course, at the start, my collaborators in this work. So we work with people from mechanical engineering, biomedical engineering, medical doctors, and I'm gonna also talk about part of my research that's more focused on biomedical and biomanufacturing through some practical examples. That's what we call cyber-secure biological systems. So what is that? You can think of it as living biosensors. So we leverage biology to sense biology, and we have engineered biological systems that are actually providing high specificity in very harsh environments like the human gut. And we combine that, augment that with intelligence of electronics. So we build living IoT devices, Internet of Things devices. And they actually can self-evolve, self-replicate, and self-correct themselves. And with the intelligence of electronics, you can compute, provide security, and autonomously operate these systems in real world. So where they can be used in many different applications that actually impacts our society. They could be used for disease monitoring, disease diagnosis. They could be used for monitoring our soil, water quality. They could be used for biomanufacturing of pharmaceuticals, materials, food products using biology rather than petrochemical sources. So they have many applications, and we have projects under all of these applications with the contributions of my PhD students as well as undergraduate researchers, which I will highlight their work throughout this talk. So I'm going to give 3 very brief examples of these systems, how they could be used in 3 different applications. So the first one is actually about healthcare. We are working in the space of monitoring Crohn's disease, gastrointestinal diseases, since 1 in 5 people in the world suffers from these type of problems. Traditionally, for inflammation diagnosis, you go to doctor's office, go through an endoscopy. That's very invasive, of course, and you can only do that a few times a year. So that actually prevents real-time monitoring of the patient. As an alternative, you can collect stool samples, do biomarker measurements. That's cheap, easy to do, but the problem is that you actually lose essential information about disease process. So most of the essential biomarkers degrade within the digestive system before reaching the stool sample. Some of you might be familiar with video capsule endoscopy PillCam. That's non-invasive real-time monitoring, but that's again taking images, videos inside the GI tract. So that's not really giving you molecular information about what's happening inside your body. So what we are building is a new type of technology. It's for real-time, non-invasive monitoring of the GI tract. But the interesting part is it actually measures short-lived molecules inside the human gut. So you can actually capture molecular information and localize inflammation in the body. So how do we do that? We actually use this genetically engineered bacterial sensors that can detect human health markers in that harsh gut environment. And interestingly, they could be actually tuned to detect the stage of your disease. So you can detect if it's a mild condition or if you have a more severe problem. And where does the electronics come into the picture? We actually combine them with electronics. You're seeing our capsule right next to a chickpea to give you an idea about the size. So they have these engineered living systems that does a detection. And when they detect inflammation or bleeding in your gut, it produces a light signal that's detected by our CMOS chips, and we wirelessly communicate that information out of your body to your cell phone. I don't think I really need to justify why we need to miniaturize a capsule, since you're going to swallow it, but I like to show this data. So why do you still need to go to doctor's office for PillCam? If you're healthy, there's a risk of device retention of 1.4%, but if you actually have a problem with like Crohn's disease, that goes up to 13%. So that's why you still cannot do actually at-home diagnosis with PillCam. So you're seeing on the right our capsule to scale, and that's right next to this millimeter scale to give you an idea about the shape and the size of our capsule. And only 85 users out of 4.4 billion had a problem with device retention in the GI tract and obstruction rate. So that actually helps to have something that's safe and easy to use at home. And as part of our future work now, what we are doing is we are actually making these devices to harvest energy from the GI tract so that they could actually be powered while it's traveling through the GI tract to monitor inflammation. So that way you also eliminate the battery. So that's one example. And now I'm actually gonna show that how these type of devices can be actually used for environmental monitoring. So here, the challenge we are solving is to monitoring toxic chemicals in the water, in the wastewater, and pathogens. From the COVID times, you might remember all of these problems that we had. And here now, you're imagining this living IoT network that's distributed inside the water. It's monitoring with low-cost, fast, and scalable way. The challenge here, again, when you're building these sensors is actually, how do you prepare them for deployment in the lab? How do the students make sure that their test in the lab is actually going to work in the real world? And traditionally, the issue with biosensor testing in the lab is it's very manual, labor-intensive, and you cannot test under many environmental conditions. So there's a gap from the lab to the real world. So we actually work on addressing this by building a lab-based platform in collaboration with Doug Densmore's group, where you can actually bring in your deployable CMOS sensors into the platform to do the rapid screening of these biological systems under many environmental conditions in high throughput. And that's actually this modular platform that we build, where you actually combine your biological systems with the real-world deployable sensors in a modular platform where the biologists can change what they're using for sensing, and they can do these plug-and-play experiments in the lab to prepare these sensors for deployment. As the last example, I'm going to tie to more the manufacturing side, again, building practical systems that's used for biomanufacturing. I'm sure all of you have seen Back to the Future. So here again, we're taking waste and we're producing pharmaceuticals, food products, as well as industrial chemicals using biology. So we have these big fermenter tanks that have living organisms inside. And what you're seeing in this picture in the middle is from a picture from our collaborators, industry collaborators, Capra Biosciences. And in the middle, you have the fermenter tank, and everything around it is what they need as sensors to monitor what's happening inside the bioreactor. And actually, these are all wired sensors. You can only measure from a single point, which limits information about that heterogeneous environment. And you actually are missing sensors. You don't know if those cells are happy and healthy. Are they producing at the correct yield? You don't know that, so you don't have enough sensors to understand that currently. So what we are building is these tiny sensors that are free floating inside the bioreactor. And they are actually providing heterogeneous information about the environment while they're also securely communicating with each other. So you're protecting the sensitive data about the pharmaceutical production, for example. And these are, of course, low cost as well. And you're actually going to see a picture of me now. I'm holding in my hand a pH probe. That large thing is just measuring one thing about the bioreactor. Versus on the other side, that small thing is a sensor we built in the lab with the help of my students, of course. And that sensor is measuring multiple things simultaneously while being tiny compared to that large probe. And now what we are working on is how do we scale these information from, again, lab scale to industrial scale, where you have large fermenters from 10,000, from a liter to 10,000 liter. So you actually need more sensor data that can feed into your AI ML predictive modeling that could actually help you understand what's happening to those cells. Are they happy, healthy to make the production? So hopefully I was able to show you some of the work that my students are doing to impact society through many different applications. And as the last slide, again, I'm going to come back to the most important people to accomplish all this work. These are my amazing students, my PhD students, as well as all the undergraduate researchers I have had in the lab. So with that, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to take. Thank you. And I also have the capsule right here, just to, if you're interested, and it's tiny. But feel free to take a look at it. Oh, yes, Ken.
That was great. That was absolutely spectacular. On the first example, you're using biology to sense the biology, as opposed to sensing some biological information. I've always thought about the challenge of keeping the sensor alive, because it's made out of a living material, which is not the case in the other application. Can you speak to that for a bit?
That's a great question. So how do you keep the sensor alive? So in the human gut, the good thing is you're kind of using, similar to probiotic bacteria, so they're actually using the nutrients inside the environment. So they work actually quite well in that harsh environment compared to electronic-only sensors. In the other cases, for example, in the wastewater, again, you have wild type of bacteria, so it's again kind of similar. But what we are doing now is, again, we are using our engineering approach, so we are actually now working on kind of a memory array of these living sensors. We sense with electronics, are they still stable? Are they still alive? And we actually switch to a new sensor in the memory array that can be rehydrated and used so that you have the redundancy that could help you sense throughout the time. So we're using different engineering approaches to increase their lifetime. Yes. This is a great question. So we have collaborators who, for the ingestible capsule, our collaborators from MIT are also gastroenterologists at hospitals, so they're going through that process. So we have completed our in vivo testing, animal testing mostly at the pig level. Now we are getting to the clinical trial level. So it's still early research. Yes.
One quick question. So the applications seem to be focused on the GI system. Mm-hmm. Where do you see in terms of applications for other systems within the body, perhaps in the future?
Oh, that's a wonderful question. I mean, I guess there's a lot of, so we have been working on things now more, again, in the GI, but to look at the gut-brain axis by measuring GI motility through these type of devices. So other than the gut is the best place because it's a very harsh and hard to reach environment with the current technologies. And another platform I'm working on is, again, with these type of sensors that combines biology and electronics, are implantable devices to monitor hormones related to female health, progesterone, estrogen. So similar to glucose monitors, we can also measure cortisol that's related to stress. It could be also used for defense applications, for general healthcare to help measure different hormones and biomarkers. So those are some quick examples. Okay, thank you all.